Welcome, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of the Town Matt Show. Thank you so much for joining us. Wherever you are, however you are, we hope it's all good in the hood for you. Last week, Deborah Warren was with us. Deborah, dietitian, registered dietitian, does a lot of community work, does a lot of school work, farms to fresh or fresh to farms or something like that. The Joy of Food, we called that one. Deborah Warren. It's the first time I've ever had a dietitian on. In 15 years, almost six, going on our 16th season here. We're always looking for people. We're always looking for people like today's guest, a first timer. The director, is it director of the Multicultural Center? We'll see here in a
It is
second.
director of the Multicultural Business Programs. Yeah.
Director of the Multicultural Business Program. My guest today is Ed Tillett. I'm calling this one Spartan Talk. I was going to call it Spartan Village, and there's a story behind why I was going to call it Spartan Village, but I didn't go there because it would be confusing for people. And they're like, what? Because I do these Spartans, and like when we had Bill Beekman on, we had call him Sparty. This is Sparty kind of thing. So we got another Sparty with us here, and this guy is got it going on. Ed Tillett is a proud Michigan State University alumnus. He's director of the Multicultural Business Program, Michigan State University College of Business. The Broad understands the life-changing impact. He's a parent. He's a dad. He's a husband. He's a go-getter. He's a hustler, and he wants to make our university better and his life better. I don't have this in the bio, but I think don't you reside in Hazlitt, Ed?
So I'm that funny line, right? So my I'm in the Hazlitt School District, but my address is East Lansing. So it's an interesting funny line that I live on.
Okay, so we're going to talk funny lines here because most of you will recognize the areas we're talking about, and some of you won't. But I want to bring into the program for the first time my new friend, Mr. Ed Tillett. Ed, let's go for it, baby. Let's talk about
Let's
the
do it.
broad. Let's talk about your family. Let's talk about all the good leadership, all these good things you got going on the university.
Yeah.
Like we don't have enough to talk about the university, do we?
We got a lot. We got a
we'll,
lot.
we'll get into that later, everybody. Because if you're a fan of MSU and you're listening to the show, and perhaps you're catching us on WKAR on Sundays, you know that there's been some turbulence. Let's call it turbulence at the university. Ed's here. He's going to help us dispel some of it. We're going to make everybody feel better. We're going to go into the doctor. Dr. Ed's here. Dr. Ed's he's going to take care of all of our pain, all of our anxiety with the Spartans. Let's let him roll. But first things first, this is your life. Welcome to the program, Ed. And let's talk about the fam. How are you, brother?
I'm good. First of all, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for having me on here. Thank you for having me as a guest. That means a lot to me to be able to talk about a place that I love and to be able to kind of share what I love about Michigan State, what I love being a Spartan, and be able to talk a little bit about leadership in my family and the way that everything is intertwined, because we know that everything's interconnected in the way that things work. So yeah,
Well,
yeah, happy to be
well,
here and grateful for the opportunity.
all right. Well, let's start at the beginning. I just dropped a little clue here about I was going to call this Spartan Village.
Yeah,
Why would the listeners and now you know what I'm talking about,
I
but
do.
the listeners are like Spartan Village. What the hell is Spartan Village? What the hell is Spartan Village? Okay, start from the beginning, brother. You got
Yeah,
the
yeah.
story.
Well, when you say start at the beginning, it's literally the beginning. I my dad was working on his PhD at Michigan State University. We were almost, a couple other Big Ten schools, but MSU was the place that he felt most comfortable with when he made that decision. And we were living in what was at the time married student family housing, and that's what Spartan Village was. It was a set of apartments that was just so special in so many ways to me because that was my formative years. So when they had me, I left the hospital as budding baby boy. And when I came home to Spartan Village in Michigan State. So when I say that I was born a Spartan, I was literally born a Spartan because I was born, grew up and played on the sidewalks and the backyards of Spartan Village. It was a memorable time. It was special. I can remember where the sledding hills were and where I would ride my bike, and it was just a special place and had tons of friends there. So it was great. It was really, really great.
Just for a little background for everybody out there, our guest today is Ed Tillett, calling this one Spartan Talk because
Yeah.
he is big time Spartan. But Spartan Village is a absolutely a cool place. It used to be a cool place. It's not, it's kind of no longer. It's still
Yeah.
there, but it's not utilized anymore. But back then, Ed, I mean, talk about the community that you guys had over there because they put a lot of the graduate students over there with families, married families lived in Spartan Village. They were apartments. They're different than dorms. And so
Yeah.
you grew up in a truly green Spartan environment over there.
I did. I did. And it was special. It was really, really special. And kind of what made it so special was the fact that, there were so many different families of so many different backgrounds. I grew up hearing various languages around me because there were other grad students there who were also international students, similar to my parents. And so that was just really an eye-opening kind of world for what it meant to have different cultures around you and to navigate different cultures and to engage with people of different cultures, which kind of was a precursor to what I'm doing right now in my current role and what I hope to do in my future. But it was one of those really formative experiences that I had that it was just so great to be able to learn about others, to be able to ask questions in a safe space, to have friends that would introduce me to different meals at their house. It was really, really cool. Yeah.
Talk about the family now. I don't cut you off and not talk about that. We
Oh,
have
you're
so much
fine.
to cover, but go ahead and I mean, as soon as you said formative, I was writing down formative and foundational. We'll talk about all that throughout.
For
But
sure.
the formative times that you earned as a Spartan, have you
Mhm.
transferred that to your children and to your wife?
I have. I really have. What's funny is that, my wife and my kids have really bought into this kind of Spartan Michigan State world. My wife was a Spartan when she was in college. And then when
What's her name?
we got engaged at the 50-yard line at Spartan Stadium. That was where we got engaged. We got married in the MSU Gardens, and then we had our reception out at Dublin Square. Uh, in East Lansing. So, and our colors were green, gray, and white, right? So I had a gray suit with a green tie, and we had flowers with the green accents, white flowers with the green accents, and so it was truly a Spartan wedding, Spartan experience. But it's really translated to our kids. We have built I've had so many great memories on campus, whether it's the marching band, watching them do the series on the way to the stadium, tailgating, basketball games, volleyball games. There were so many other experiences that I had around campus, feeding the ducks, going
What's
to
your
the
wife's
MSU
name?
farms for Small Animal Day. Like, it was stuff that I loved as a kid. It's stuff that my wife enjoyed as a kid growing up in the area. And so now we've done a lot of that with them. And so they've had a lot of those experiences too.
What is her name?
Courtney. Yep. My wife is
Court.
Courtney. My oldest son is Titan. My middle son is Elijah. And my youngest is Julian. And so their initials, which is kind of fun, it's kind of a fun little acronym. It's JET. From youngest to oldest, it's JET. So we've kind of taken that on as kind of just a fun family thing. But yeah, they're amazing and they're doing so much, so many great things. Each of them.
What are their ages? What are the kids' ages? And give me that real quick, and then we're gonna go to break here.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah. So my oldest is 16, my middle is 13, and my youngest is 7. So
So
they're
we
they're
got quite we got
spread
quite the
out.
spread. Yeah, they're quite the spread here. Okay, here's where we're going, everybody. Ed Tillett's here. He is the director of multicultural business programs at Michigan State University's College of Business at the Broad. He understands the life-changing aspects of being a Spartan from the crib all the way to the crib. I mean, from
Literally.
Hazlitt to yeah, you guys get what I'm saying here. This is going to be a fun one because with the changes that we've had to university, and believe me, we talked a little bit when Ed and I had lunch talking about what we're going to do with this show. We had a lot of different concepts we wanted to roll with. Actually, things have turned out way better than we ever expected, and
Mhm.
we'll talk about that when we come back here. Again, Ed Tillett's here, Spartan Talk, with a subtitle of Spartan Village. Ed Tillett's my guest today. Loving the conversation with him. This is the Tom Mann Show. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to this week's episode of the Tom Mann Show. Thank you so much for listening, joining us, watching the podcast, watching the clips, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn. Those are about it for me. I mean, we enough is enough. And there's so many other social medias out there that I have never even touched. I don't even want to deal with it. But we need to talk about our sponsor and our friends and our family, the selling team of Keller Williams Realty, where trust is our middle name. And I'm part of that whole family over there. 517-853-6408 is the office number for Brock. 517-853-6408. His cell phone number, and this is where you really want to get a hold of Brock via text or leave him a voicemail, 517-303-3262. 517-303-3262. You can go online to kwsellingteam.com, which is a phenomenal website. Go to our website, tommattshow.com. Go to Reality of Real Estate is the little cartoon boxes that we have. Like, we have 12 topic categories on the website there just to kind of make it easier for you guys to navigate. And things have changed over the 15, 16 years we've been doing this. Of course, topics change. We're doing a lot more Spartan stuff now that I'm refired from the university. And Brock helps us with being a sponsor of the show. And without him, we can't do this. So I want to say thank you to Brock. And he helped us buy Little House Lansing. He helped us sell Big House Holt. And he's just got a phenomenal team over there. And I'm going to name some of the names when we in our third segment. I want to name some of the team and kind of explain why the selling team really is a team. TEAM. There's no I in team, especially with Brock's crew. Once again, 517-303-3262 is Brock's cell phone number. Please use that. Tell him you heard it from Tommy, because that's how they refer to me. Tommy's a radio thing. Sell your home without hassles, because Brock is the man. And there's no pressure. There's no pressure whatsoever. He's just a good guy. Our guest today is Ed Tillett, super cool guy. Michigan State from birth to however old he's about 30 now. So he's got about 30 years on, he's got 30 years of being a Spartan, and he's
I'll
he's
take that.
got these kids that are 16, 13, but believe me, he's only 34. I mean, he's like a young guy, okay? He just does the things right. All right. So,
I
and you
love that
got
the
you got
scale's
Court
going down.
and you got the names right. And you got the names in there in that first episode. So that's good. And Courtney, thank you for what you're doing out there, Courtney, doing all that Facebook stuff and talking about all the good things that are going on at the university. Ed, let's get down to business here. I mean, we wanted
Yeah,
to talk about leadership.
yeah,
The university has gone through some major upheaval, retrenching, swapping around, doing some good things. I mean, leadership isn't a title, one of your bullets, but let's talk
right.
about your experience with the situation at the Michigan State. Go ahead. I'm going to let you do it in your words. Where are we? What do you think? You're a director. Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I think that, with there's always change with leadership, right? Leadership is always going to change wherever you are, wherever you work. And what's important is that the work and the mission doesn't change. Your why doesn't change. My why has not changed. And I think that President Guskowitz has chosen to stay because he loves this place. I love this place. And that is quite a bit that can help move a lot of what we do forward. And I think that if we keep the main thing, which is our students, the work that we do, our commitment to creating a better world, as long as we keep that at the center of what we're doing, I think that anybody could lead, right? I think that we can all lead from where we are. And that's something that I try to do. It's something that I try to instill with my staff, is to lead from where you are. It's important that we have a leader such as a president that is setting a vision, and that's amazing. And that's great, because there's initiatives that are going to be very important to that leader. And there's, some vision setting that leader is going to set. But then as we kind of do our own day-to-day work, there are great things that are happening at Michigan State University, and there's great things that we're committed to doing when it comes to the experience that we're providing for our students, the research that is happening in labs across campus. And so when we stay committed to those things, we play into the leader's vision, and we find a way for us to fit in that vision. But, I've survived many different presidents at Michigan State. I've seen many different presidents at Michigan State. But as I said, we keep the main thing, and that's the experience that we're creating from an educational perspective. And that's the thing that we're creating for anybody who may come to visit. So visitors, the experience that we're creating for alumni who feel the same passion and ties that I do as an alum to Michigan State. And so that's really what we do is we try to keep the main thing the main thing.
What you mentioned great things happening at the university, and you're on the
Yeah.
cutting edge of things that are happening at the university. Give just a snapshot, a few things. We got about minutes left in this segment, and I'll give you the signal when we're getting close. But what are some of the great things in your perspective? You can tie in your department if you want, some of the great things and some of the great people and the students that because we have so many great students. I mean, please go ahead.
Yeah, yeah, we absolutely do. You know, there are some things that we do in our unit where we have an entrepreneurship camp that we put on for high school students. And so for me, especially being a kid from Lansing who grew up in the area, as well as being someone that is really passionate about the experience that we're creating for those that are coming to Michigan State, we created this entrepreneurship camp for high school students to connect us back to the community. And it's a really, really great opportunity for those students to come see campus, to engage, to learn from MSU alumni entrepreneurs who have gone off and been very successful in their fields, various fields. And then what happens is they come back, they get to pour into these high school students. And the goal is really to try to empower those students to chase their dreams, to be able to go off and do the things that they want to do as an entrepreneur. So that's one of the things that we do within our unit that's just really special in terms of creating that community connection because we have students that come from all over Michigan, including the Lansing area. So we have some of the students that come from our backyard, but we've also been really grateful to have some students from out of state come and join us too. We've had students from California and in Chicago, and we've had one from Ohio. So not only are we creating a great community opportunity for the students that are here, but we're creating one for others outside of the state who just want to check out who is Michigan State and what does it mean to be a Spartan, and we get to demonstrate that for them. So that's one of the things that we do, but we do a lot of different impactful programming for students, whether it is free tutoring and allowing students to have academic support from that, or getting connected through student organizations that we have. We have many student organizations that are under our umbrella as a unit that students can engage in to really help them find and build a community because we know that's so important. Michigan State is a wonderful place and it's a big place, but sometimes you want to shrink it a little bit. And Michigan State's really good at doing that because I tell students all the time, don't let the size and don't let the numbers fool you. This place is really a tight-knit community. You just got to give it a little bit to find those niches where you can kind of find your belonging, find your place of belonging. And we try to do that.
A lot more to come, everybody. You want to listen to this one. If you've got a student, a grandchild, perhaps you want to go back as a non-traditional student like I did, because I'm all about non-traditional education. I mean, going back to school as an older adult, don't be afraid to try. There are so many programs. We're going to get into all of this with Ed. We're going to get you fired up. We're going to talk about all of this. We're going to throw in a little NIL. Whenever I have an MSU person here, we're going to talk a little NIL transfer portal and what he feels about that. Our guest today, Ed Tillett, Spartan Talk, with a subtitle of Spartan Village. This is the Tom Ed Show. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to this week's episode of Tom Ed Show. Remember, last week was Deborah Warren, Joy of Food. This week, Ed Tillett, Spartan Talk, Spartan Village. That's just a funny subtitle. But I also want to say some more good things about the selling team because they sponsor this segment as well. Brock Fletcher. And I want to mention Joan Wright's name. Joan, how you doing? Out in Williamston, a fan of the show, listens to us on WKAR. She's a really good friend of Brock's. And when I heard from Brock months, maybe a year ago, that Joan Wright listens to the show every Sunday at 5 o'clock when we're on at WKAR, she's listening to the show. And I'm like, well, I gotta throw Joan some love. So now we just say hello to Joan every episode because when I do Brock's reads, I love Brock so much that if you're good with Brock, you're good in my book. Okay. I want to mention some of the team. You know, I usually do testimonials here and I love doing testimonials, but I'm going to mention because the selling team, and I haven't done this before, the selling team, as I said earlier, does not have an I in it. Brock has a very specific team set up at his company, at the selling team. So it's just not a title. It's actual. They actually do not cannibalize each other's work. They work together. So they have seller agents and they have buyers agents and then they have the support staff that go along with it. And I want to mention names here because we have the listing, okay, the seller agents, as we would say, like Big House Holt, Brock Fletcher, Stacy Robeson, Morgan Meredith, both have been on the show, Douglas Stratz. I think Doug's been on before too. Anna McDaniel, Anna, and Cliff Merritt. Those are all of the listing agents. Then you have the buying agents, and I text or send pictures to my boy Mikey Deadman, the lead buyer specialist. Mikey Deadman, 517-944-6914 is that number. Mikey's the he's Mikey. That's all you can say. Dylan Swan, met Dylan before. Rob Felcher. We have Chris Tyler. You guys know Chris Tyler. Chris Tyler's famous. I mean, he's huge. Chris Tyler. Zach Caltrider, Alicia Metter, and Jaden Souls. One more. Let me roll this up here so I can get to the name. Amy Whitney, all of the buyers. Those are all on the team. That's how big the team is. So again, 517-853-6408 is the office number, and 517-303-3262. Text, leave a voicemail, and tell Brock you heard it from Tommy, and away we go. Ed Tillett's our guest today. Spartan Talk with a true Spartan. And I mean, we're talking a true Spartan. This guy's incredible. Been around for a long, long time. He is the Multicultural Business Program Director at Michigan State University's Broad College. Great things we were talking about, Ed. And and some of your points, leadership isn't a title. Now, President Guskowitz, as we talked about a little bit, he reversed course on his decision to leave the university. You're the first guest I've had on the show since this recent, and this show will air in a few weeks because we're always like 3 weeks out or so. So it'll be old news by the time it airs. But this is the first person I've had from the university, everybody, who is a high level faculty staff member, administrator. And so getting his feedback on this, and then he gives me the topic of leadership. Now, Ed, you were toying with the idea of somebody's got to step into the void, and luckily the right guy stepped back into the void. But you were actually considering doing something to help. I mean, throwing it out there, risky, but it's what the heck? And that was a good move. How are your feelings now about President Guskowitz and his decision, and how are people around the campus feeling?
Yeah. So yeah, you're absolutely right. This is a place that I love. This is a place that I feel a very strong affinity for. I'm passionate about being a Spartan. I'm passionate about Michigan State University. It's something that I was very interested in, and is, I would say, and very candid about, is a goal to eventually one day be, a president of Michigan State University. It's something that I would love to aspire towards.
Hold that thought right there, Ed, for a second now, because you're a director of multicultural in the business section.
Yeah,
But to have aspirations like that, we
yeah.
always want to encourage our young people with aspirations, you young guy, 34 years old. I mean, so I'm going to try and give you that inspiration and aspiration, but that's what you do over there, isn't it? You aspire to great things.
Well, that's just it, right? It's the audacity to dream. It's the audacity to be bold. I think that's what's really important about being a leader. I think that is paramount to being a leader, is that you have to dream big. You have to be able to set a vision for folks, right? There's no point. You can't be a leader if you have nobody to follow you. And following comes with buy-in, and following comes with, sharing that dream and having others buy into that dream so that you're moving that dream together forward. So yeah, it is kind of an audacious big goal, but it's one of those things that, why not? I think
Of
that
course.
the greatest leaders that we've had throughout history, they've always dared to dream big. They've always dared to be audacious and to be bold in the way that they dream, and talk about those dreams and socialize those dreams. I think socializing your dreams is really, really important when it comes to sharing it with
Why do you
others and
think
then
that?
having
I
others
have
be.
ideas on that, but I want to get your opinion.
Yeah.
Why is it important to socialize your dreams?
Yeah, I think it's important because I think there's a part of that there's an accountability that comes with that. When you start to share your dream with others, when you start to share and have them start to buy in to something that is bigger than you as yourself, now there's some accountability that comes with that. And accountability is really important as a leader because, if you set a goal, you have measurable outcomes, you have all the different things, right? You set a SMART goal. What you need to do is you need to be able to measure that. You need to be able to uh, have some sort of accountability that comes along with that. And so as folks are doing their part and pulling along the weight to be able to make that come true, you as well need to do your part as a leader to be able to do that. And so I think when you socialize your dreams, you're not keeping it to yourself. You're keeping it for you're sharing it in a way that allows people to be a part of it, to bring their self to that dream so that they can feel included. They can feel included as a part of it. You know, I think servant leadership is so important. And so when you're serving others, you want them to buy into your leadership goals and your leadership dreams. And I think that's just so important.
The thing that the point that I was getting to, and I'm really glad you said that. Ed Tillett's our guest today, everybody. Spartan Talk, we're calling this one. Ed's a big time hitter at Michigan State University. He's the director of the Multicultural Business Program. But when you make and you socialize, as you said, socialize your dreams or share your dreams or you write them down and you tell people these audacious goals,
Mhm.
it makes them real. It
It
really
does.
does cement it. And here's the thing, everybody, and for you young people out there, don't be upset if you don't get the new gig and you didn't tell anybody that you wanted the gig. I mean, if you don't share your feelings, if you don't tell people and socialize these thoughts, it's like, boy, I'd like to be considered for something like that. There's
Right.
nothing wrong with that, right, Ed? I mean, so many
Yeah.
times people think, oh, I'm being too pushy or I'm being too audacious. What's your point on what's your take on that, my man?
Yeah, my take is, and it's something that I tell my kids all the time. You know, it's this idea behind there's always that phrase, right, that says closed mouths don't get fed. That's a phrase that I use in my house when I encourage my kids to be able to speak up for themselves, when I encourage them to advocate for themselves. And so your goal needs to be something that you advocate for. And when you're a leader and you're setting a vision, you're setting things up for your team or whoever you may supervise or whatever that looks like, you need to have their buy-in because that's so important when it comes to leadership. And so if you are talking about your goals and saying, here's where I'd like to go, here's where I'd like to be, now other people know where they fit and they know how they can contribute to that. They know how they can be a part of it. And that becomes really, really important. And so that's why socializing your goals, sharing it with others to help them understand where they can fit. You know, you might unlock something. You might be at a networking opportunity and you share with somebody here's what here's what I'd like to do or here's what I'd like to accomplish. They might have something that aligns and that is very similar. And next thing you know, you have a partner that you can kind of grow with or that can help you make those dreams come true or make those goals come to fruition. And so I always stress with my students, like I said, with my kids, never play small, never hide the light that you have. And keep it from people. Share your light. Let it shine. Let
All right,
people see.
hold that thought because I want to take some notes here and I got to go to break here.
Yeah,
Ed Tillett's here, Spartan Talk, Spartan Village. What he just said, we're going to come back and talk about because we want to talk about the culture and organizational
yeah,
structure. Again, Ed Tillett, Spartan Talk. What I'm going to talk about is never playing small. When we come
yeah.
back, this is the Tom Match. Welcome back. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tom Matt Show. I am your host, Tom Matt. Thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate all of the fans of the show, everyone who has listened to at least a clip. I'm grateful. Been doing this now. We will start our 16th season in October. It's hard to believe, but you know what? It's just like my friend Ed Tiller, our guest today, just saying, and we're going to talk about this some more because we got to get into some understanding why organizational culture is important, but never playing small. If I would have thought about playing small, I wouldn't have ever written 4 books. I would have never got my not only finished the bachelor's degree at Michigan State, but got my master's degree at Michigan State as an old fart, and I'm over there with all those kids. And it was a struggle. But you know what? You can't play small, as Ed was saying. But before we talk more about the culture and playing small or playing big, I want to get Ed's contact info because he's a phenomenal speaker. He's a great leader and he's a good dad. So if you guys need any help with all kinds of different topics, I mean, the business college, anything, get a hold of Ed. He's going to give you stuff. Here it is right here. Go ahead, Ed.
Yeah, yeah. So, reaching out to me, you know, my personal stuff. If you want me to do some speaking engagements or training or any type of opportunities that can help your team grow, and help them thrive, you know, you can always reach out to me at ed.d.tillett, Tillett, at gmail.com. But if you're at the university and you want to connect with me at the university, Once again, it's just my last name, Tillett at msu.edu. And you can definitely reach out to me there when it comes to emails if you want to reach out and have a deeper conversation. But if you want to follow along with the journey, about the unit that we have, it's Multicultural Business Programs. So it's at MBP_MSU. But if you want to follow along my personal journey and the things that I'm doing as a leader, it's Ed Tillett, so EDTILLETT _leadership. And so you can follow along with me there, and we can connect in various ways. But I'm always open to being connected and always open to having a conversation, because the conversation we're having today is great. And I absolutely love this. And so to be able to have that with more people and connect and see what ways that I can help, and I'm always up for that. So yeah, that's something I really, really enjoy doing.
True, he's a true green Spartan through and through. You
100%.
know, I taught the Spartan experience for 8 years at MSU, and I loved meeting guys like an Ed Tillett because he's true blue. I mean, there, and
True
I'm not
green.
trying to, no offense,
True
anybody
green.
out there. I'm not trying to insult anyone out there, but there are people that use MSU as kind of a stepping stone, and then there
Mm,
are the true blue, true green
true
people
green.
out
Yeah.
there that are really solid with the university. And so God bless everybody. I mean, if you're there to add your resume, fine. But if you're there for your career and you got 40, 50 years, so much the better because you're loyal. Now,
Yeah.
never playing small. You talked about that at the very end of the last segment. I want to try to blend that in with the organizational culture. And as your note said, paramount to success, because at MSU gave me the foundation, like you
Mhm.
were saying earlier, the formative stuff, the foundational work to do what I do now. So I wouldn't play small. MSU gave that to me. Let's
Right.
talk about being part of that organizational culture that you noted in your bullets to me, and the high performing organization like MSU. Please talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think for me, it started when I started my full-time experience. I started at Michigan State. I was a hall director for Emmons Hall and then Akers Hall. And those were opportunities where I was able to be bold with the staff that I had. I had amazing supervisors that were always helping me to dream big. Sometimes I would say something and they would say, but let's go bigger. You're a little bit smaller on that. What if we made it even bigger? What would that look like? And so I got into this mode of challenging myself on a regular basis to say, well, why don't we do bigger? And so now I'm translating that to the staff that I supervise, and I'm always pushing them to say, let's think big. What if nothing was our limits, right? If let's throw budget out the window for just a moment, right? Because we know you have to be accountable to the budget, but let's throw budget out the window as we're brainstorming, as we're dreaming, as we're coming up with stuff. Let's throw some of these restrictions out the window and just dream a little bit. And then we can pull that back and say, what's our reality? And how are we going to make this actually come to fruition? Because then sometimes you allow for that creativity to kind of bubble up and flow, and you can riff off of each other. And that's one of those things that I like to just challenge folks is to dream big, think bigger. And that started as a hall director. Shout out to all the students that lived in Emmons and Acres for me. Actually had such a great time doing that. And then it just continued on when I worked at the University of Texas. And then when I came back and worked at Career Services here on campus, I worked and supervised some of the career fairs that were happening. Whether it was the College Nursing Fair, the Diversity Career Fair, and those fairs, I was constantly thinking about how are we going to make this bigger and better? What's one tiny little thing that we can tweak, or what's something big that we can change that's going to make it just that much more of a special experience for our students, for our alumni who come back, for the corporate relations folks who come back. I'm always trying to think about how do we make this bigger? How do we make it better? And so that's that kind of like, let's not play small, right? Let's not just, I hate the wash, rinse, repeat stuff, right? When folks get in that groove, it's okay if you want to do the same things over again, but how do you make it better each time? How do you improve it each single time that you do it? And that's what I'm always striving for is how do we make it better every single time? Tom, I think you froze on me.
Ed Tillett, our guest today. Everybody call this one Spartan. Small, think big. What's your why? Where you want to go? All of these good things, and it all started at MSU for me, and it's really good. I want to get into this the next point that you had because everything dovetails together for your really well done. But and big partnerships. It is issue is this place in the world for building the together the partnerships and getting people to launch because that's the next generation. Those are the people paying social security for down the road. So let's talk about that, please.
Yeah, yeah. So partnerships and collaboration
Go
is
ahead.
something
Talk
that,
about the leadership of the next generation.
yeah, yeah, the leadership of the next generation is something that is we have a lot of bright students who are doing so many amazing things. Whether that's leading a student organization, creating student organizations, whether that is their academic achievements. Some of them are doing research while they're on campus. So we have so many bright students, and that's something that I am always trying to empower them, trying to get them connected to the alumni who have come through Michigan State, because ultimately our Spartan network is vast. It is huge. And our Spartan network is in so many different disciplines and so many different areas that I think that if our students and the bright leaders that they are right now, if we can cultivate that and help them grow in their pursuits, if we can help empower them to feel that, their audacious goals, that their big dreams are possible, then we're creating a better future. And so if we are connecting them to the MSU alumni who have been successful in their careers or that are currently successful in their careers, whether they're retired or not, right? If we're connecting them back to our students, we're creating an amazing cycle that eventually when those students, those current students reach that pinnacle in their career and that they're successful in their career, now they want to come back and give back to the students who are currently here. And I think it's just an amazing opportunity for us to create kind of a Spartan cycle of greatness, right? Can I call it that? Can I make something up like that for right
Sure.
now? We'll just call it that, and that's what it is. I've had so many amazing alumni pour into me. I've had so many alumni connect me to other alumni or to other professionals that have helped me along in my personal journey. And so I think that if we can do the same thing for our current students, it just creates so many great other opportunities that we do with our unit on a regular basis. We're constantly bringing alumni back to engage with our students. We're bringing them to pour into them, to have mentoring opportunities, formal and informal mentoring. And so that's something that I really genuinely um, feel is a precious resource that we have is our alumni that we can use to empower our students.
Hold that thought because we got an episode always. Ed Tillett's here. Spartan Talk. You're listening to the Tom Matt Show. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to this week's episode of Tom Matt Show. If you're listening to this segment of the episode that we're currently recording with Ed Tillett, Spartan Talk, Spartan Village, then you're listening to us either on WKR or some of the other affiliates that pick us up on radio, or you're listening to the podcast. And I thank you all across the board for doing however you want to do it. I want to get back into something that Ed just made a comment at the end of the last segment that I think we need to coin this thing. We need to use this. Let's share it across the world. The Spartan Cycle of Greatness. That was a phenomenal term that you just dreamed up there, buddy. And so let's continue to talk about that because your last point that you had in your notes was how leaders demonstrate resilience and to have a cycle of greatness. See how we're going to spin this together here?
Yeah,
Tom
I
knows
do.
what he's doing. He's done
Of
this a
course.
couple of Tom's
That's
done
why I'm
this a couple
here.
of times. Yeah. we've driven this ship a few times. We
Yeah.
have a little bit of technical issues here and there, everybody. It happens. But how do we spin that cycle of greatness with the NIL, with the changing, with the transfer portal, with the resilience, with staff leaving, staff coming, staff not leaving and staying, all these kinds of things. Let's talk about. I want to give you plenty of time for this one here, Ed. But that cycle, you came up with it, the Spartan Cycle of Greatness. How do we demonstrate that as resilient Spartans?
Yeah. So, as resilient Spartans, kind of what we do is we fight and we press on, right? When you think about what a Spartan is, when you look at the historical terms of Spartans, they're a great warrior class. They fight and they press on. So we don't let any sort of, bump in the road or a hiccup kind of stop us. We are a immovable force that we are constantly pressing on through anything. And that's what resilience is. And that's what you have to demonstrate as a leader with resilience. There are going to be times where things don't go right, or you may not have the resources that you thought you had, or there's some sort of unpredictable obstacle that you have to face. But a true leader, a good leader, is going to press on and demonstrate resilience for their team, which builds resilience within their team as well, because how are we going to solve this now? How are we going to come together stronger to break through and still achieve the goals that we put in front of us, or adjust and evolve accordingly so that we can still have the impact that we want to have? And that's what leadership is all about, is the impact that you have. I think there's a quote that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. has that he asked the question, what are you doing for others? And that servant leadership kind of mindset that I carry with me on a regular basis is, what are we doing for others? And that others can be alumni. It can be corporate folks who want to work with the university. It could be students. It could be the community that we sit in, because Michigan State sits in an amazing community as a land grant institution serving the state of Michigan, serving the cities, within Michigan, serving other communities outside of the state of Michigan. And so what are we doing for others? When we look at what we've done for the FIFA World Cup and having the impact there, when we look at the impact that we've had on health and medicine, right? There's so many other places that Michigan State has had, phenomenal impact on. And if we constantly ask ourselves that question, what are we doing for others? We're sitting in a place of service and education, regardless of what that education looks like, regardless of what field that education may be. And so that's really where I think that this thought process of resilience as a leader, once again, it's keeping the main thing the main thing. And if we can do that on a regular basis, I think that we're unstoppable. I think that we can overcome any obstacle that comes in front of us. I think that we can be really successful in the ways that we impact business for the future, the way that we can impact leadership for the future, as well as empower the students that we currently have to be those leaders of the future.
I have to bring up our guest today, everybody's Ed Tillett. Spartan Talk, Spartan Village. Spartan Village is just kind of a little comedy thing on the tail end of that. But I want to bring it seriously. We're talking about resilience. I want to bring up a joint friend of ours, Vinny Gore.
Yeah.
And Vinny Gore has been going through an illness and he's doing well, but he's talk about unpredictable. Vinny Gore is a very, very good friend of mine, one of my best friends.
Yeah.
Ed, you know Vinny very well as well.
Yeah, I
Talk about
consider
unpredictable.
Benny a mentor. Yeah.
We'll talk about him a little bit because I want to throw some love to Vinny because when I
Sure.
saw him a couple of weeks ago, he looks really well and he's dealing with a serious situation right now, but he's going to come out of it fine. I told him, I said, you're going to be fine, bro. You're going to be fine. Let's throw some love because another resilient cat and somebody
Oh
who's a
yeah.
great leader. And he helped me so much in the
Mhm.
books that he recommended and the thought processes. I could tell you stories after
Yeah.
story after story of how he could be a real, he's a great guy, but he's a taskmaster. He wants things done. And so
Yeah.
let's talk about VG and how he's so effective as an example of all of what we've been talking about.
For sure. Yeah. I think Benny, so what, like I said, I consider Benny a mentor. Benny has poured into me when I would say I was just a hall director. I was on campus and I was looking for, what were some ways that I could get involved. And when they were in the process of creating REHS. Benny tapped me to be on that committee, to be a part of that process. And that was something that was really special because he saw something in me. He saw something in me as a leader that I maybe have been a little bit, we talk about imposter syndrome sometimes as a leader. I might have been second guessing my own leadership at that time in my life. And he said, "No, I believe in you. I think that this is something that would be a really good fit." What I didn't realize that it would lead to other positions and other roles, right? So a part of that process, I ended up going to the University of Texas because it opened up some doors for me where others believed in my leadership. And so just kind of that empowerment that he had to take time to pour into me as a leader at the time. He did just so many phenomenal things for me when it came to believing in me, when it came to having faith in my abilities, and helping ask just the right questions to make me see things in a more analytical way, in a more intelligent way. And so I'm forever grateful for what Benny has done, for me as a person, but also for me as a career. Because I remember even being a Michigan State person growing up here, living here, I will never forget. He said to me, when you get there, you'll know whether it's a good fit or not, and I was kind of like, whatever. I don't know if I believe that or not. And he said, no, you're going to know. He said, you're going to know, you're going to get a feeling, you're going to have, this kind of a light will go off right away. And at the end of the day, you can always come back to Michigan State. It's never a forever. You can always come back here. You love this place so much. You're so passionate about Michigan State. You can always come back. So I went and I worked there for a little bit. And then sure enough, I came back. And he and I had a good laugh about it. And I brought back a Longhorn helmet for him and gave it to him as a gift to kind of say, yeah, I went, I saw it, and I came back. And so we've had some good laughs about that over time. But Vinny's a great, great guy.
He is a wonderful, wonderful human being. Love the guy so much, and we're more good things. Benny's been on the show several times.
Yeah,
We're coming up close to the end of this phenomenal episode with Ed Tillett, Spartan Talk.
yeah.
I want to give you ample opportunity to share, contact info again, your love for the university, and the takeaway that you want to leave the listeners with for this your first visit to the show. And thank you again for being with us today. But what's your takeaway there? Go
Yeah.
ahead and keep talking. I'm listening
Okay.
to you.
Okay.
Give us-
All right.
I know you're still here. Go ahead and finish with the takeaway.
Yeah. So for me, my final takeaway really is, for anybody that's listening, be a leader from where you're at. You can lead from where you are. You don't need a specific title or a high enough title to be able to be a leader from where you are. I think it's important that you believe in yourself. I think that it's important that you are pouring into others that are around you so that you can influence them in a positive way. I think that if you are serving those that you are leading, if you are in whatever leadership role you may be, wherever you are in your organization, I think it's important that you are, once again, leading from where you are, that you are serving others, and that you're keeping the main thing the main thing. What is your mission? What is your goal? What is your vision for what you want to do? Keep that as the main thing that you always come back to. Use it as a filter for the decisions that you're making. Use it as a filter for where you spend your time and your energy. And if you do that, great things are going to happen. And then from there, socialize your goals, socialize your dreams. As you think of things that you want to achieve and think of things that you want to do, make sure that you're sharing that with the people that are around you. Share that with your network, share that with people you may meet, and let them pour into you, let them help you, let them, be a part of what you want for yourself, what you want for your organization, and how you decide that you want to lead. Because I think that all good things can come from that if you're doing that on a regular basis.
Ed, he is the director of multicultural business programs at Michigan State University, College of Business at the Broad. Remember, if our show fits your business or group's mission, we want to be of service to you through our guests like an Ed Tillett. please let us know. Sponsorships are available, but you got to fit. If you miss any portion of the show, check out the podcast on the website, tommattshow.com. Always remember, before you can share love with others, you must love yourself first. Thanks again to Ed Tillett for being with us, Sandy, Brock, the whole team at the selling team. We'll talk to you next weekend, everybody. Have a great week. Go out and ignite your life. Have a great day. Thank you again to Mitch Anderson and Vanessa. Remember, the Tom Matt Show is a production of Boomers Rock Media. We want to bring your story to life. We are out. Ed Tillett's a bomb. Spartan Talk, Spartan Village. I just wanted to throw that in here. But I tell you what, the formative, the foundational, think about this term that he kept saying. He said this a couple of times. The main thing is the main thing. If you make the main thing your main thing, guess what? Get stuff done. And then, until next time, everybody, you've been listening, watching, doing all those good things for the Tom Matt Show, and we appreciate you very much. Thank you so much for doing what you do. Thank you to Vanessa for doing such a great job, and Mitch. Again, until next time, everybody, peace out. Love y'all. They call me Papa Tom, and I'm out. Have a great week.